Hi, my name is Mason Doming, and I'll be doing an informative speech over ADHD. So, what is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It's a neurodevelopment disorder, and some of the symptoms cited by the CDC include impulsiveness, anxiety, lack of an attention span, difficulty to stay focused on task. So some of the statistics provided by the NSCH, about 5.4 million children per year children are currently diagnosed with ADHD. About 8.4% of the children's population are currently diagnosed with ADHD. And from the same source, about 4.4% of the population is diagnosed with ADHD. So according to the NIH, the DSM-5 sets the criteria of diagnosing individuals with ADHD. So with children up to 16 years old, there has to be 6 symptoms present, and for adults there has to be 5 symptoms present, and both age groups have to have the symptoms be prevalent for at least 6 months before a psychiatrist can diagnose them. So there's some types. So the first type is a predominantly inattentive presentation. Second one is predominantly hyperactive, impulsive presentation, and the third one is combined presentation. So to start with a predominantly inattentive presentation, I can relate to this because I was diagnosed with ADHD in middle school, so I was about 13 years old. I was more on the inattentive aspect rather than the hyper scale. I was very quiet, very shy, but it was very difficult for me for stay on topic, have attention for people and for my teachers. So the second one will be predominantly hyperactive impulsive presentation. This is the typical stereotype of people who have ADHD, who are bounced off the walls, fidgeting, talking a lot, very impatient, interrupt people's conversations. That's what everyone thinks what ADHD is. And when I was diagnosed, actually, the inattentive presentation was described as ADD, but now ADD is lumped in with ADHD. So the third type is combined presentation. These are when both symptoms are basically present. Both types are present within an individual. Usually throughout childhood, they'll grow out of, or going from childhood to adulthood, they will grow out of the hyperactive aspect and will keep the inattentive aspect throughout adulthood if their body does continue with the diagnosis. So here's some treatment. So what I can find from the chadd.org, there's basically 2 types of treatments for ADHD. The first would be behavioral treatment, and that's usually for the hyperactive people with ADHD. And the psychiatrist usually kind of starts that at a very young age, around 6 years old, to kind of encourage good behavior and discourage bad behavior. But the more mainstream form of treating ADHD would be stimulants, and I listed Vyvanse and Adderall. They're just the 2 main mainstream medication on the market that are prescribed by doctors, and I also have taken both of them, so I can kind of relate to the subject matter. So the efficacy of the stimulants, they do work. They calm you down. If you're hyperactive, they'll keep you in a seat. You're able to pay attention. their short-term memory turns into, it disappears. You automatically can remember things. You can remember important tasks you need to do. You can stay on topic. It's really a miracle in the way it can help someone be more successful in life. But there are side effects, and I can attest to all these except for anorexia. But like insomnia, I struggle with that. I did struggle with that. Being at 2 a.m. It's not fun. But the suppression of appetite, I did go through that for a while when I was in high school. My doctor raised my Vyvanse milligram from 10 to 20 milligrams, and I went from being 210 pounds to 170 pounds within a year. My parents, my doctors were worried, and my dad would go and buy me a burger and try to get me to eat that, and I would want to eat it. So when it's hard to describe it to someone who's never had a suppressed appetite, it's basically like forcing something down my throat and my body's constantly trying to reject. It's not pleasant. High blood pressure, if you don't diet, according to my doctor, if I don't diet and exercise, I could have high blood pressure issues later on in life and be more susceptible to heart attacks. So it's always good to run and exercise to eliminate those risks. So the conclusion for my presentation, attention deficit hyperactive disorder is prevalent among 5.4 million children in the United States of America. It is a neurodevelopment disorder, and it should be taken seriously. This is a disease. This is a mental illness, and it affects people more than they know. People who don't have ADHD, it's kind of hard to comprehend what it's like to have it, and it's very difficult, a lot more difficult than for an average person. That's why doctors and psychiatrists are constantly evolving new techniques, new medication, new ways of prescribing medication to help us flourish. And actually, my doctor put in a good perspective for me. He said, if I can get at least 50% productivity from you, and then the medicine has done its job. If you let the medicine give you about 50% boost throughout the day, and you just kind of fight along and work with it, you will be okay and you will succeed. And so far, it has worked great doing that. Thank you.